this is like a controversy, stir, like I'm not trying to like stir the pot, but it is something that I generally was questioning, and they were questioning it on the broadcast too. So I don't feel like I'm just like unnecessarily bringing up stuff. But basically, prior to kind of you ended up saying that they called it a stinger, but it looked like he banged his head on the turf, Brock Purdy, in that fourth quarter. Prior to that, Trent Williams had been out. Then Jalen Moore went in for Trent Williams, and then he was out. The O-line was clearly having problems. The 49ers were losing by more than 3 touchdowns. And my initial reaction was they should take Brock Purdy out of the game. Why is he in the game? And when he did get injured and bang his head, I was kind of, I think maybe like some fans, was like, Kyle, why didn't you take him out? Why did he have the opportunity to get hurt right there? He should have already been out of the game. But then, because I like to talk out of both sides of my mouth, then once he was taken out, and for like one play, Sam Darnold looked good, and they ended up scoring a touchdown. And there was an opportunity where the broadcasters weren't sure when the 49ers got the ball back, was Kyle going to hold Brock Purdy out, or was he going to keep Sam Darnold in the game, or let Brock Purdy have the opportunity to go back down? Because by then they were only down by about 2 touchdowns, right? So they technically could have came back. I think they only had 4 minutes, but they had their timeouts left. And once again, we're not accustomed to seeing the 49ers overcome deficits like that in such a amount of time. But if that was like the Chiefs, there would have been no question that Patrick Mahomes is in the game and that they have confidence that they can get 2 touchdowns like that, right? So when Kyle Shanahan did choose to kind of stick with Sam Darnold, was that, in your opinion, him benching Brock Purdy and saying Sam Darnold has the best opportunity to bring us back and potentially win this game? Or was that Kyle Shanahan saying this game is over with, I'm protecting my potential franchise quarterback, and we're kind of throwing in the towel and just trying to get out of this game without injuring anyone else?
Nah, this is not at all an indictment on Brock Purdy. And I
Okay.
actually disagree. I think if Patrick Mahomes was in this situation and Andy Reid was the coach, you pull him too.
Oh,
They
really?
should have
Okay.
pulled Brock Purdy before
Tell
that
me.
drive. I think they
Good.
should
Yeah.
have down three. The main reason down 3 touchdowns with 9 minutes left that you pull your quarterback and wave the white flag there is because your starting left tackle is injured and your offensive line was horrible. They were horrible at down the stretch. Brock Purdy is getting pressured a lot, and that's the reason a good portion of this offensive success is there. It's also a good portion of the reason why he was shaky. It's he was struggling to keep up with the pressure that Baltimore brings, specifically when they brought 4 pass rushers. What Baltimore does really darn well is they'll drop 7 or 8 players into coverage, make it really hard for you to fight between their zones, and then they'll only rush 4, but they'll have success rushing 4. And they had a ton of success against Colton McKivitz, even against Jalen Moore when he was in the game. Whoever it was, especially at the end, they had a ton of success up until that final Sam Darnold sack. I think they should have pulled him before. Kyle Shanahan confirmed it was a stinger, and they don't believe it'll be serious, doesn't think it'll linger. The reason that I think they brought up the stinger on the broadcast is because he suffered the same injury last week when he missed a few plays against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think this was at all to do with the injury or even to do with benching Brock Purdy. It was purely the situation because you're down a lot, especially at that point. It was well within 9 minutes. You're down a lot of, you're down 21 points. Your offensive line is even more banged up. And at that point, I think left tackle was Colt McKivitz, right tackle was Spencer Burford. That is not something you want to see in the middle of a game where you have to make such a shift. I think this was 100% the right move. He probably should have made it at the beginning of that drive, not even risk Brock Purdy getting injured. Sure, Sam Darnold had, a drive or two that were pretty solid up until the interception. That's fine. But I think that this is just a nothing burger. I don't think there's much of a storyline here. And I think Brock Purdy is very clearly the guy going next week.
I I agree. I think I want to. I'm going to transition, but I just want to give you one last hypothetical, because if Sam Darnold ended up looking so bad. He threw an interception of his own, and he's just a bad quarterback. So I feel like there's no controversy because of that. But if Sam Darnold would have brought them back, which he had the opportunity to do, they did score one touchdown. And like it looked like they were about to score another one before he threw that interception. Like once again, both quarterbacks throwing interceptions in the red zone. Um, I think that could have made things potentially interesting. I think Brock Purdy would have started next game, but I think if he continued to, because he never settled in, and I think that
No.
is something that Kyle Shanahan deserves criticism on. Even though I think that the pass game was working, it did feel like potentially if he would have incorporated more Christian McCaffrey in that run game, that maybe Brock Purdy could have gotten into more of a flow and a rhythm, because it did feel like he was kind of doing too much all game. Like he never got comfortable truly. But yeah, that I think that there was an opportunity created where there could have been controversy, but because Sam Darnold sucks, there was no controversy.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about Sam Darnold in that case, I think even if he had scored that touchdown and they got another chance, I don't think there's really an instance where you put Brock Purdy back into that game. It was pretty clear from that point on. Shanahan at 9 minutes or whatever it was made a decision. This game is over. He pulled Trent Williams. Williams wanted to go back in, according to Shanahan at the end of the game. Doctors kind of said probably
like
wait.
that. Why does he? Do you think that that's good or bad? Like I don't know.
You don't like that for whose part?
That they kind of threw in the towel with.
Oh, no, I think that was absolutely the right move. You're down 21. The issue, this game does not matter anymore. When you're down 21, you have 2 games left. When you're down this much, the other 2 games are even more important, especially when you consider that when you go to a tiebreaker, it's, well, first of all, the 49ers are winning most of the tiebreakers. The only team that really has a chance other than the NFC East teams in a different tiebreaker is the Lions. When you go to the Lions, the number one thing in a tiebreaker is conference record. And so the other 2 games are conference games, but more importantly, you win those 2 games, you win the NFC, the number 1 seed. So the most important thing is getting everybody healthy for those 2 games. That's the way I look at it. No reason to risk anything. Even if Purdy was clear to go, you're not going to put him behind a shoddy offensive line. And because what's the game plan? You got to drop back. The defense knows you got to drop back. So they're going to send pressure, and you're going to have to probably get chunk plays. There's a chance you get sacked. Darnold got sacked in the short portion of the time that he played. He faced pressure and got hit down another time. You don't want to risk that with your starting quarterback at this point in the season, knowing the implications that kind of come with it. That's kind of my thought process behind it. And yeah, that's kind of the way that I see it.
No, you're right. You're definitely way more intelligent. Like it's way more smart. I don't mean it like that. I mean like you're looking like I think maybe sometimes like tomorrow I might look at things from like a more rational point of view. But I think in the moment I'm like, come on, just like do everything you can. And I'm not thinking, okay, in the grand scheme of this or grand scheme of things, this is an AFC team. They still have the opportunity to meet up with this team in the Super Bowl and win then. Maybe losing now gives them more motivation to try harder when they meet up again. And what's going to give them a better opportunity to win is if they get that bye week. And what do they need to get that bye week? They need to get out of this game with as little injuries as possible. They already have major injuries, and rest up, because the most important things are going to be beating the Commanders and then beating the Rams. Someone in the comments, I didn't star it, so I think it's too far back, did ask if the Rams were scary. I'm going to ask you that, but first I do want to once again say, anyone in the comments, if you're seeing any updates about injuries, let me know. I was just looking on Twitter, and the only thing that I saw was kind of in agreement with you. Kyle Shanahan at his press conference said that Brock Purdy's first interception was the only interception he considered a true big mistake, and that the other 3 were more unfortunate passes, batted down.
And that fourth one was pretty bad too. The one that he threw way in front of the guy.
Apparently, he said he was hit before it.
He was hit as he threw it. Yeah, but you got to throw that a little earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying that's what I guess, and obviously he's probably trying to also cover for him.
Right.
That's what